Welcome to GNN. I am your very sick anchor, Red Nebula. It's space flu season in this part of the galaxy, and entities everywhere are feeling the effects of the yearly plague. Unfortunately, I have contracted the deadly space flu virus antimatter antibody T4A. This means I will only be alive for about 4 or 5 more episodes. The space flu is highly contagious, and I'm sure everyone in this studio has contracted it as well. Conspiracy militant and former Chancellor of Planet Big Round Circle, Grotmar, has made complaints that Overlord Roxnar Glofbar is to blame for the heightened mortality rate. We'll see about that, Grotmar. Let's check in with Ace in sports. Take it away, Ace.
This last Yester weekend in Rocket League events, we saw a possible cure for the Blacklight's pumpkin patchitis. It turns out to have just combined the atoms of the cars and the pumpkins, turning them into rocket-powered super pumpkins. The cars are in fact real pumpkins and are capable of being smashed easily in a collision, causing a giant pumpkin-y mess. This should make for a great championship game in the next Yester week to come. In other news, pod racing has brought a lot of potential for illegal gambling. A sum of as much as 300 million woolongs was reclaimed by space police from recognizable gangster Pizza the Hut. Looks like the pizza guy left the tip this time. Bad joke. Bad joke.
Thanks, Ace. A man can make a lifetime's worth of woolongs in that industry. Hey, Teve, how's the weather?
Wind speeds of over 186,000 miles per second, also known as ludicrous speed, have been clocked in the Detroit metropolitan area. Hold on to your protective head cover devices. Looks like it's going to get messy during the daily excrement storms. Steamy humidity on the new Midwest coast is going to make breathing feel like drowning in a sea of molten lava, so caution is mildly recommended for those who wish to continue their inconsequential life cycles. On the lighter side, here's a photo snap sent to us by viewer Stiggy McGee. Her happy kitten shark Chuckles looks like he's having a great time playing hide-and-go freak in the unspecific ocean. What a cutie. In the Omnifuge, expect more pseudo-electric ringer cloud attacks, as those little suckers just won't kneel before Zod despite taking heavy losses in the Quip District Psychic Wars. Plague inoculations are now being offered free at Walmart's. They may feel excruciatingly painful forever, but nobody wants an incurable case of the death sniffles. Back to you, Red.
What a great weather update, Teve. Thanks for tuning in this week on GNN. Remember to get your flu shots. Is highly contagious. Right.
Great championship game in the next what?
Her happy kitten shark Chuckles looks like okay.
Hey everybody, Chef Todd here. Welcome to Under the Apple Tree, where I build, grow, and of course cook my way towards a handmade life. 'Tis the season for pumpkin pie, so today I'm going to share my recipe for a cheesecake style pie. I just love this crust. You're going to want to save the recipe. It can be used for these sweet pies, but I also use the same recipe on my quiches. So sit back, enjoy, and get in that holiday spirit. So our first step in a pie is obviously making the pie crust. This recipe uses both butter and shortening. The butter is there for just for flavor. It adds a layer that just other fats don't add. Whereas the shortening really adds flakiness and creates that layer effect in the crust, making it so you get that melt in your mouth, flaky kind of flavor to it. So we're going to use a food processor today, and to start with I have the 2 tablespoons of shortening in there. We're going to break up this butter a little bit more and drop that in the food processor as well. These are great tools. If it's one that you don't have, it's a great one to invest in. I probably use this more than I would use my mixer. We have our 1.5 cups of flour here. As always, I use an unbleached partial whole wheat. So that's going to go in there. And that's the only 2 ingredients we start with. We're going to load that up. Pulse it a few times till it gets the consistency of coarse sand, about the size of peas. And what this is essentially doing is creating that fine mixture of butter and flour that once it starts to warm and cook, you create those steam pockets, and that's what creates your airiness and your flakiness. I'd stop once and scrape the sides down. Just make sure everything is incorporated and we're getting a good consistent mix. So here we have ice water. Put ice cubes in there, water, and let it sit in the fridge so it's very cold. As it hits this, it's going to mix, but it's not going to allow the butter to liquefy and kind of dissipate on us. So we're going to start with about 2 tablespoons, stir it a couple times and see where we get, and see how much more we need to add. Then we have our 1/4 teaspoon of salt we want to make sure we get in there. And that's just going to help activate things and kind of make sure, and reinforce that rise and make sure that we get that taste sensation. Even a little salt, if you don't taste it, it helps you kind of sense the other components that are there. So this is 2 tablespoons of water. It's pretty good. We're going to add just a little bit, maybe about 1/2 tablespoon. Pulse it another couple of times. So everything's got to come that way, and all we're going to do is stick our hands in there and kind of ball that back up. We'll roll that up. Wrap it in plastic wrap and let it sit in the fridge for about 1/2 hour. So our dough has sat for a little while. It's kind of chilled out now, and what we're going to do is just roll it out to about 10 inches wide to fit in a standard pie plate. So we have a little bit of flour here. Make sure you use plenty of flour to stop your dough from sticking to your work surfaces, including your rolling pin and your fingers. So that's that. The beauty of this thing is it makes it easy to transfer over as well. Just a little bit. Make sure we're covered on the sides, and then go through and kind of pinch your design in there. Again, you want to make sure that your dough is really cold when you're working with it, so it holds a little bit. With all our lights, ours is getting a little warm here, but it definitely is still holding up all right. Now when you can kind of stretch it over, fill in the spaces that might have a little lack of dough there. Now we can poke some holes. You want to aerate it so that you don't get bubbles and the big, misshapen crusts. So we have the 2-step process there. We're going to poke holes in it. And we're we're going to use pie weights for the first 10 minutes that we cook it. Mine are made of clay, just bought them from a cooking supply store. You can also use black beans, dried garbanzo beans, whatever. Just put them in that same aluminum foil and spread them around. This is also going to protect the edge of the crust from burning. So we're going to throw that in the oven at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, take the pie weights and the aluminum foil off and give it another 10 minutes to crisp up and dry out a little bit. So for our filling, we're going to start with cream cheese. We're going to cream that in a bowl with a mixer here, and then we're going to add a cup of sugar. So with creaming, what we're looking for is getting some good air in there, really incorporating the air and softening up the fat in the product, which is usually the cream cheese like this or butter for a lot of cookies. And then we're going to take our cup of sugar and put that in there. And kind of cream those together. Again, make sure you take time to scrape down the sides every once in a while. And then we're going to add our eggs. We have 1 whole egg going in here and 2 egg yolks. I'll show you how to split those, how to separate those as well. So 1 whole egg's going right in there. Always crack your eggs on a flat surface versus the edge of a bowl. It prevents pieces from actually falling into your whatever you're making, your mixing bowl. For our yolks, what we're going to do is crack the egg in half and kind of toss it back and forth. As we do this, the white slowly kind of finds its way off. You need to get in there with your fingers and pull that last little tail off once in a while. There we go. And that's going in there. And then 1 more of those. Oops, that one shattered on us. So we're going to use the other option and do that in our hand. And just pull it out of there. In the kitchen, this tends to be the way you do it because you're just doing 200, 300 at a time. You just kind of move through. So that gets set aside and we are back to mixing. Incorporate our eggs in there. At this point, we're adding an ingredient and mixing, pretty much to get everything else in there, making sure that we scrape the sides of the bowl between adds. Get our half and half. Of course, our star of the show, we have the pumpkin going in now. And again, this is a really nice demonstration of why we make sure we scrape the bowls as we go along. You can see even with mixing we still have a nice yellow border along this where the pumpkin hasn't been mixed in thoroughly yet. So I want to make sure we kind of push everything in there. We'll run that mixer 1 more time and work our seasonings in. That would be our vanilla, cinnamon, and ginger. We'll kind of scrape and fold the rest of it in, transfer it into our crust, and we'll be ready to bake. Our pie crust is all done. Nice golden brown, flaky. And all we're going to do is take our filling, pour it in there, and bake this guy off. A little shake to make sure we got all the holes filled in. We'll bake that for 50 minutes at 350 degrees. So with a good pumpkin pie, we of course need an excellent whipped cream. So we're gonna whip some up here real quick. And our secret ingredient is some homemade Kahlua. So we'll have a little coffee flavor to it. Step one is to make sure we have very cold utensils. The bowl and the whip have been sitting in the freezer for a couple hours to make sure they're nice and chilled. We're going to start with putting the cream in here, and then we're going to whip that. As it starts to get, form soft peaks, then we'll start putting our ingredients in. But first we're going to need to whip it for a little bit. Taste it, make sure we're good. Perfect. Let's see how our pie is doing. That was a lot of fun. I really like this recipe just because it takes the standard pumpkin pie and changes it just a little bit. The texture of the cream cheese is excellent. So I hope you guys enjoy this one, and try that whipped cream with some other liquors too. I especially love it with like a peach schnapps or something along those lines. So remember to follow us on Twitter at Appletree Show, subscribe and comment below, and thanks a lot for hanging out. We'll see you next time under the apple tree.
Perfect. Hey, Brandon Palmer here, bringing you episode number 6 of Pigskin Pundits. Jacob number 1, as usual, will give you all the latest NFL news and highlights. And Jacob number 2 will be telling us about read option. All that's coming up. Stay tuned.
I'm Jake Dodson, and this is the NFL news this week. Our first story comes out of Tennessee, where Titans have fired head coach Ken Wisenhunt after starting 1-6 for the season. Mike Malecki will take over head coaching duties. Big news coming out of the NFC West this week, where starting quarterback for the 49ers, Colin Kaepernick, has been benched for second-string quarterback Blaine Gabbert. There are still 4 teams that are undefeated this week. All of them are 7-0, including the Bengals, Broncos, Panthers, and Patriots. Unfortunately, the Packers are not included on this list. Big trade news this week. The Broncos have acquired 49ers 2-time Pro Bowl tight end Vernon Davis for late-round picks. Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell tore his MCL in Sunday's matchup. He's officially placed on the IR. Also bad news for the Ravens. They lost their star wide receiver Steve Smith to a torn Achilles. And that is all for the NFL news this week.
Hey, Jacob. What you reading?
It's called When Pride Still Mattered. It's a biography of Vince Lombardi. He really was an amazing coach. I wish I could have been around to see him in action. He built a lot of the foundations of modern football, everything from your basic passing plays to some of the concepts that go into read option.
Read option. I've heard of that. Isn't that more of a college thing?
Yeah, although it's been getting used a lot more in the NFL over the last 5 years or so. A lot of college quarterbacks play a huge amount of spread and read offenses, and as they get drafted, it's gotten a lot more popular in the NFL.
How does read option actually work? Isn't it just that the quarterback keeps the ball and then runs?
Sort of. The basic idea is the quarterback reads what the defense is doing, specifically one guy on the defense, and then he has the option to keep it or hand it off, hence the name read option.
What do you mean, read the defense?
Well, it's set up kind of like play action, right? When both teams are lined up, there's one guy on the defense who is on the edge of whichever direction the run is designed to go. Usually either a defensive end or a linebacker. When they snap the ball, the quarterback will watch that guy. In the first few steps, while the quarterback and the running back are still setting up to meet in the backfield, that edge defender has to decide if he's going to go after the quarterback or the running back. Mm-hmm. The quarterback has to try and figure out which way that guy is going and send the ball the other way.
Why doesn't the defender just try to get them both when they meet?
That's what they try to do a lot, but because it happens so fast, it's hard to do. If he hesitates for even a split second, that's one less defender that the offense has to worry about, which is generally what you want to happen with a read option. And if the defender commits to the running back right away, he has to aim ahead of the running back, which is when the QB can keep the ball and take off in the other direction.
So it's really just a way to get one guy on the defense to slow down so that they can sneak the running back through.
That's the effect you want, yeah. If you have a quarterback that can make a big run out of it, that's great, but you generally don't want to take a huge risk with a big investment like your starting quarterback like that. What you want is have the defense scared enough of that big play that they will let up a lot of smaller plays with the running back.
All right, that's not too complicated.
The overall concept isn't, no. Of course, there's a lot of variations on it, and the actual read part happens so fast it can be hard to catch. But the general idea is if you see the defender go one way, you send the ball the other way. And that's it for this week's episode of Pigskin Pundits.
Got any questions or opinions? You can share your comments on the TC Weekly Facebook page.
And remember to tune in next week when we switch back to defense. Remember, defense wins championships.
Best defense is a good offense, right? Was
That's
this way
right.
around?
It goes both ways.
Best offense is a good defense. All right, never mind that.
And the Emmy goes to
Student Survival Guide.
Like, oh my god, I can't believe we won. Like, actually, who am I kidding? I knew we were gonna win. Anyways, my castmates couldn't be here today because they had like some other stuff to do. I'm not really sure what, but they just had something to do. They didn't really want to tell me. Anyways, I just wanted to thank the people who watch our show like every week. Like, without you, we couldn't have done it. And of course I want to thank my castmates because if I could, without them, I couldn't do the show. And most importantly, I like to thank my mommy because without her, I wouldn't be here right now. So enough of my boring speech. I just want to say that those of you who have not seen Student Survival Guide, you need to watch it. So go to our webpage down there and watch it. Okay, goodbye.
Hey, this is Microphone Jones. You're watching this live freestyle on TC Weekly 1, your internet radio connection. To subscribe, click right there. Hope you enjoy. Mothers, like you know I'm coming at you like your sisters throw the frying pan, your brothers. You wanna flow with this and get on the list and the line's long. Coming at you with my words off the top, mine strong. PhD in rapping, son, cause I'm the doctor. Step into my blue box, then you know that I'm proper. Get on my flows when I got the bow tie, I'm shocked. Yeah, you wanna flow with this one, mother? You know I got ya. This isn't the way we did it now. This is just what I'm saying, what I'm thinking, spitting now. This is just what I'm playing when I'm gaming, hitting now. The high score, mother, try to take me down. And I'm self-adding, going so off the dome. And I'm bringing you bros right up off the throne, cause my boys back in Leeds about to know my style. Wanna get with me, you better be buck wild. What my time at? I ain't got no time. No, I ain't got no time, bro. Doesn't make any sense. This is just a daydream. Are they going back in one more time? Is it going out again? I don't understand how this works. Let's see, we got the goats and the bucks. We talked about the accent. We didn't talk about the accent. It's a fake accent. I made it up. But I'm gonna edit this out anyway, so it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll add in some cymbals. Or like a bicycle bell when it rings. I don't know, I'm gonna wake up now. See ya, peace, I'm out.
Yeah! Rock and roll tonight! And I'm doing rock star things! Like totally recording this the morning that it's due because I really can and procrastinating rules! Yeah! Rock on! Student survival guide for the win!
Hello and welcome to another episode of MTE. So I just watched this documentary, This Film Is Not Yet Rated, and it was very interesting. It talks about the MPAA ratings board and the problems that are associated with it. It also digs deep into the dreaded NC-17 rating and how it can practically kill a film. This got me thinking about some of the NC-17 films I've watched and how it's a shame that they weren't given a chance at the box office because of that rating. So with this episode, I wanted to take a look at some of the best NC-17 films I've ever seen. As a heads up, I won't be including any films that were re-rated R or any films that were edited down to get a restricted rating, just films that accepted their NC-17. So without further ado, here's my top 5 best NC-17 rated films. Number 5, Evil Dead. Rated X during its original release, changing to NC-17 in the 90s, Evil Dead is considered a cult favorite and a classic to many. It deals with a group of friends hanging out in a cabin, and after listening to a recording of the Book of the Dead, they become terrorized by the woods and the undead themselves. Due to its excessive amount of gore and a scene of rape, this film was given an X rating.
Shut it off.
Kanda.
Shut it off.
Kanda.
Shut it off! Oh my God!
Number 4, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. Taking place in very few locations and shot and written in a play style, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover is a unique experience, to say the least. Over the course of a week, we follow a woman, abused by her husband, form a relationship with another man. Getting an NC-17 due to its frequent graphic nudity and sexual content, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover is a fantastic original film that is truly an interesting experience.
Where's Richard?
Number 3, Killer Joe. Cult classic in the making, this 2012 drama thriller stars Amelia Hirsch and Matthew McConaughey in, without a doubt, 2 of their best roles to date. The film, based on the play of the same name, tells the story of a family who wants their mother dead. In turn, they hire a hitman, McConaughey, to do the job. What follows is both thrilling, funny, and in a nutshell, just all out amazing. Because of graphic violence, graphic nudity, and a certain scene with a chicken drumstick, this film was given an NC-17. For film noir lovers and fans of cult classics, this is one movie that should be added to your watch list.
Of course, we never discussed the possibility of a retainer.
What do you mean?
You know how to reach me. Call me if she's interested.
Hey man, you talking about my sister?
Is that who she is?
Number 2, blue is the warmest color. The most recent entry on this list, Blue is the Warmest Color, is a French film dealing with the issues of love and life. In the film, we follow Adele, who after meeting Emma, begins to open up and discover who she truly is. Acquiring plenty of critical praise, including a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, the NC-17 rating, given because of the graphic lengthy sex scenes, had little effect on its success. Raw, devastating, and perfectly acted, Blue is the Warmest Color is absolutely breathtaking. Number 1, Shame. Directed by the Oscar-winning director Steve McQueen, Shame is one of the most powerful films I may have ever seen. Our protagonist, Brandon, played perfectly by Michael Fassbender, is a sex addict whose world begins to crumble after his sister, played perfectly by Carey McCullen, shows up to live with him. NC-17 rated because of the graphic and frequent sexual content, Shame unfortunately wasn't given a chance at the box office. Because of its brilliant characters, raw emotion, and beautiful cinematography, I can easily suggest this to anyone who is a fan of films.
What do you expect?
Pretty please?
Look, you get the sofa and you get your ass off it before I leave every morning.
I promise I will.
Okay. We leave in 15.
Okay!
So what is your favorite NC-17 rated film? Did you agree with my choices? Make sure to drop a comment below, check us out on our social media, and for anything TC Weekly related, make sure to check out tcweekly.org. This has been another episode of MTE, Movies, Tech, Entertainment News.